Jai Masters. In traditional classes, yoga philosophy, you're taught that there are various branches of yoga. I don't teach you that stuff. But it's good that you can learn it. It's very traditional and very ancient and very great teachings. But one of those branches is called Gyana Yoga. Gyana Yoga. It's not meditation. It's not asanas. It's not mantras. It's not breathing exercises, pranayama. And it's very good for us to talk about it because we're always talking about mind being a problem. Well, Gyana Yoga uses mind for liberation, but not the personal mind. Use the intellectual mind. First, let's get straight. What's the difference between the personal mind and the intellectual mind? There's really just mind. Just like there's an ocean. There's an ocean. It's a thing. You can break it up into inlets, into bays, into different things, but it's all the ocean. So mind is one thing. It's a vibration of energy that's way higher than the physical plane, which is why we can't measure it and why scientists, physicists don't do very well with it, even though they use their mind. I find that very funny. But they stay fixed with what you can see as physical form. The vibration rates are way higher. You should understand this. It's not a matter of belief. It's all vibrations. We're going to see that when we talk about quantum fields in a minute. It's just all vibrations. They've proven that. It's just different vibration rates of energy, and it manifests in different ways based on the vibration rates. Well, the vibration rate of mind, of this thing called mind, the field of mind, is very, very high. It's a very high vibration rate, and our instruments can't pick it up. But you do. That's why I think it's hilarious. You pick up your mind. You're more sensitive than the most sensitive instrument they ever built. Do you hear your thoughts, yes or no? They don't know you have thoughts. They can't measure your thoughts. They can see what part of the brain is activated, but they can't see your thoughts. But you do. I just think that's hilarious. So your consciousness is way more sensitive than the finest instrument that humankind has ever built. And I don't want to be around when they build it good enough to where they can go zap and read your mind. They will have mind police. You get it before you do anything wrong. We'll watch it. But that's what's going on. It's just a very, very subtle, very high vibration rate of energy. And it's everywhere at that level, at that, we'll call it a plane, if you want to. There's the mental plane. There's the physical plane. There's the mental plane. So that plane of subtle energy is not what a thought is. No more than an ocean is not a wave. There's a wave in an ocean. You can see it, you experience it. They have different characteristics, heights, things, everything. But the ocean is not the wave. The wave is manifest out of the ocean. So thoughts are the mental plane, the essence of the mental plane, that very, very high vibration rate, pulled together to create what's called a thought form. It makes form, just like the ocean makes waves. It's exactly the same. The ocean can be completely still, but if something is disturbance, it causes it to turn into waves. The mind, the natural mind, is what Buddhists call empty mind. It doesn't mean you're stupid. Just because the ocean's not making waves doesn't mean it's not there, doesn't mean it's not the ocean, doesn't mean it's not a great thing. So mind, pure mind, that's so beautiful. These words are so powerful. Pure mind, empty mind, is mind that is not creating thoughts. That these wavelets made out of the essence of mind, just as the waves are made of the essence of ocean, your mental thought patterns are wavelets that happen within the field of mind, made out of mind. They're no different than mind, but they take form, just like the wave takes form, even though the ocean doesn't have form. You understand that. You should understand this. That's what mind is. And just like every wave in the ocean is the same, every wave in mind is the same. However, because of this thing called consciousness, which is aware of those thoughts, you are consciousness. When you drop into this system of mind, emotions, body, and the senses that see the world, we've talked about that before, the soul gets disoriented. It gets lost. It doesn't know where it came from. It doesn't know who it is. It doesn't know what's going on. It's just aware that it's lost. It's like amnesia. It's just lost. That's the true lost soul, right? Is it drops into the body. It's conscious. The trouble is, it could have been conscious, only much more expansive, but it dropped into this tiny little thing. The body is so small. It's so small. You're so fixated on it. It's hilarious. There's 8.3 billion of them walking around the planet right now, and you care a lot what yours looks like. How many have there been? How many animal bodies are there? How many things are there? So there's all these bodies. Your human body is very evolved, but when the consciousness drops into it, it gets lost. And then it spends this entire time trying to create a definition of itself so it doesn't feel lost. So you start with blanking, you start with cribbing, you start with mommy. They have nothing to do with you. You're the consciousness. You were there before you dropped in. Again, don't think of it as you as an individual. I don't want to get into reincarnation or anything like that. But the soul, the essence, the consciousness, the awareness of being drops in, and it gets disoriented as all these sight, sound, touch, smell, this and that are coming in, and it tries to build solidity out of that. It's not self-realization. It instead reaches out to try to cling and hold on to things outside to say, I was the person who played Dorothy in 5th grade in Wizard of Oz. I'm the person that didn't like their stepfather when the mother got divorced. Well, I did like my stepfather. I didn't like my mother. Whatever it is, you start defining yourself as the experiences you had. Do you understand that? You have defined yourself by the experience you had, haven't you? Was bullied in the 5th grade. I had this problem. I did really well with this. I picked up blah, blah, blah. People compliment, right? You had experiences. And you don't know who you are because you got lost. So you grab, Buddhists call it clinging. You grab the experiences, but they're over. Well, I'm going to talk to you very deep tonight. The experiences are over. They come and they go. They're gone. You're not in 5th grade anymore. You're not with the stepfather. You're not with this. You're not with the first boyfriend. They're coming on. So how can you build a sense of self out of the experiences? Because the experiences came in through your senses, and they pass through the outer form, and they also pass through the inner form. It comes in, it passes through heart, it passes through mind, and it flows into consciousness like rivers flow into the ocean. That's what's going on. Everything comes in and falls back into consciousness. The trouble is, you don't let it. You have, I think it's hilarious, and nowadays some people teach you don't have free will. You have free will. Every single thing you do is made out of will. If you didn't have free will, events would come in, they'd be like a camera. The camera does not do anything with the events it took a picture of. It doesn't even know it took them. It comes in and it's gone. It makes its image and it's gone. So the world comes in and it passes through you and it's gone. But you have will. You have the ability to do the following. You do it all the time. To sit there and say, not on my watch. I don't like that this happened. I don't want it to have happened. Or I really like this happen. I don't want it to go away. That's will. That is will. It's not empty. Like the ocean doesn't have will. There's natural forces, but it doesn't all of a sudden say, I want to make a wave over here. But you do. You didn't cause the event, but you caused it to stay in your mind. How did it stay in your mind? Because the self, the Atman, consciousness, the self, if it focuses, just like a magnifying glass can focus the sun through a magnifying glass, it becomes a tremendous power, doesn't it? It creates some burn. It can do all kinds of things. When your consciousness concentrates, that's a quality of consciousness, isn't it? You know how to do it. No one taught you how to concentrate. You know how to concentrate. You do concentrate. When something happens that's louder or nicer or uglier or less comfortable, something that stands out so it catches your attention. Things catch your attention, that means you concentrated on them. Consciousness is focused on that. When consciousness focuses on something, it is like a magnifying glass focusing its power onto that thing. And that is what will is. Nobody will teach you this. A yogi knows this. They go deep enough and they come back and they see what's going on. That is what will is. The power of consciousness focused means you can push your thoughts around, can't you? You can push your emotions around. I don't feel this. Do you do stuff in there? Do you have hands in there that can push stuff around? Hold on to things, push them out of your mind, put it over here. You're doing stuff in there, aren't you? You're using will. Every single thing you ever made happen, you used will. If you pick up a glass of water, what offset the power of gravity? Was there an engine? Was there atomic energy? What was there? How exactly did that take place? Through an act of will. Don't ever let them tell you don't have will. If you lift your arm, you offset a mass and caused it to offset gravity, didn't you? How did you do that? You focus. You don't realize it. You do it so naturally. You focus the power of will, causing the muscles to tense and causing this stuff to happen. I don't care that they can tell what muscle tense and what muscle had to relax. I don't care if they say you had to have a certain amount of sugar in the system to cause the energy. Fine. I love it all. It's all wonderful. What made it happen? Not what was the physics of how it happened. What intent took place that arm moved at that time? You have will. So when you focus your consciousness, you do it very naturally. It's like, let's say you're teaching your boy how to play baseball. You're a 7-year-old boy. You hit some grounders at him. Every single time it bounces up, he turns his head away. He will learn to not do that by will. He will offset the reaction of fear by concentrating. Concentrate. Okay? So that's what's going on in there. So what happens is events come in, they would pass right through. That's what here now is. They would just pass right through. You experience them, you can learn from them, but they don't get stuck in there. The only reason anything is still in there that is not happening anymore outside is because you held it in there with your will. You resisted it or clung to it. I don't want it to have happened, so you push it away. Heck, if I'm letting this thing come all the way in. Let's get that straight. Have you ever let anything come all the way in without touching it? Every one of you at some point in your life have been in the arms of the beloved and melted completely into the moment, and there was nobody in there doing anything. All of it was just coming in and going through. Or you saw a sunset that was so beautiful, caught you by surprise, and you said something like, "It blew my mind." In other words, it just opened up. I felt like I was in the presence of God. You were, because that's what's inside. And you let that event come all the way in and merge into your consciousness. How about this one? Have you ever said, "It touched me to the depth of my soul"? Those are proper words. What you're saying is, it came in. Sometimes the first kiss does that, not the second. You know why the second doesn't? Because you held on to the first and you're comparing from now on. It didn't feel sincere. Well, don't laugh. I'm telling you the truth, all right? It comes in, and if it touched you to the depth of your soul, felt like I was in the presence of God. Oh my God, it touched me so deep. It was so beautiful, right? It's because you didn't apply your will to stop it. You didn't protect yourself. You didn't try to cling to it. You didn't do anything. It caught you by surprise, and it made it all the way in, and it's the highest experience you ever had. It doesn't matter if it's a sunset. It doesn't matter if it's petting your dog. It doesn't matter anything. It doesn't matter what it is that does that. You didn't resist it, and you didn't cling to it. If you really like something, you don't let it go. For a moment, you let it come in. Then you say, "Oh my God, I want that to happen again." So what happens is these events come in. They can make it through your physical senses. They can make it through your emotional and mental body. If you don't touch them, they will come in and go straight through and feed you. It's not that they don't feed you. They feed your soul. They, like I said, the deepest experience you ever had is the one you didn't touch. You're just completely open. And so you had a full experience. But that's not what happens. What happens is either it's not comfortable, and so what do you do when something's not comfortable? You focus on it. If you drop a hammer on your toe, guess where your consciousness is going? But a stupid place to put it. You put it in the place that hurts the most. So what you do is it distracts you enough, and you focus on it, and you push it away. And that's what you do with experiences that you don't like having. Or it distracts you enough because you really liked it, and you cling to it. In both cases, it doesn't stay out here. It's still gone. You really love somebody and they came and they talked real nice to you, but they had to go to work. Maybe they went to work, but they didn't go to work inside of you. We're waiting for them to come back, and it was really nice, and you're thinking about it again, and please don't go and call me. Come on, you cling to it. Where did it stay? Because it didn't stay outside. It literally created the image of it out of the mental plane, out of the substance, the essence of the mental plane, became that image. You do it. Hey, if you don't think you have that power of mind, why don't you look at your dreams? What are they? Ever have dreams? Boats, cars, people, buildings, New York, Paris, yes or no? You see them, don't you? You're in them. You walk around in them. They're made out of the mental plane. They're real. They're real at that level. So you image. Your mind is so powerful and so brilliant. All of you have brilliant minds that when the image comes in, it's able to reconstruct it within the mind, made out of mind. Just like when you see a TV screen of a ball game in San Francisco, you're not seeing the ball game. You're seeing pixels that have arranged themselves to look just like the ball game. That's what's happening of the mental plane, is literally making the image. I have met psychics who can see that image, period. A lot of people say they can, but there is such a thing as people that are so psychic that they can see your mental form. You sit there and build a boat, they see that boat. It's not important. You have enough trouble with your own thoughts. You don't see other people's. The worst thing in the world, you want to walk around and see everybody's thoughts. Okay? But your mind takes the form of the physical image. And the emotions, it holds on to the emotion, it holds on to the thoughts that were going at the time, it holds on to the image, the whole thing. The mind does not want that stuff in there. No more than your body wants stuff stuck inside. Your mind wants to be open and pure and empty, clean. But you don't. Your consciousness, your active will, focuses on it, which causes it to stay. And so now you've built that stuff inside of your mind. You built that you were, Dorothy in the 5th grade. You built that your grandfather was this. You built that your mother was this. You built that your uncle did this. You built that your mother used to have this kind of car and he got in a car accident. You built that your mother died before he got to say goodbye. You kept those things in there, didn't you? You held that stuff inside of you. It is not happening anymore. It's over. If it's over outside, it should be over inside. Your mind can do greater things and hold on to things that are not happening anymore. But you don't know how to do that. And they never taught you how to do that. And they don't even know that you can do it. Somehow they think there's super glue in there or something that holds on to things. There's nothing in there but your will that can stop that which naturally would pass through from passing through. So let them tell you you don't have willpower. You have will. You hold on to your thoughts. You do all kinds of things with will all the time. Not necessarily consciously, it's subconscious. You're doing it at a natural, instinctual level. When you don't like something, you don't say, I think I'll hold on to this. You hold on to it. Just like the kid turns his head with a baseball. So now you have built inside of this beautiful thing called mind that can do anything. It can create. It's artistic. It makes music. Your mind's a pretty serious thing. That's quite a mental plane you got there. It can make music. It can make art. It can hold on to things. It can do all kinds of things. It's a phenomenal thing. Beethoven said he heard the music in his head. It drove him crazy until he wrote it down and could play it on the piano and hear it outside what he was hearing inside. And that's what he did. You know that at the end of his life, he went deaf. He was almost totally deaf. He cut the legs off his piano, put it on the floor, the wooden floor, and he'd move his head down while he's playing so he could hear the vibrations to be able to hear outside what was going on inside. That's all mind. So when I talk about mind, we're going to talk about mind, intellectual mind, and the personal mind. So far we've laid out mind. You got a pretty great one, don't you? You're brilliant. You have yes or no? Anybody, their mind makes music. It makes visualizations. It does all kinds of things. So, yeah, it holds on to bad stuff, but it's still doing the same thing that everyone else's mind is doing. It's creating out of the mental plane. It would be as if you looked at the ocean and all of a sudden your house showed up, made out of water. And then your husband showed up, your ex-husband, usually your ex-husband, showed up, right? And then this and that. All these things are manifesting out of water. That's what's happening in your mental plane. It's manifesting out of the essence of the mental plane, which is a very, very high and subtle vibration and can create anything. But it's your will. It's your will. Not your will that created the world. It's not your will that created the senses that lets it come through. You didn't create the mental plane. But your will, the consciousness in there, is what creates the resistance of suppressing, clinging, and holding on. And then what you do, okay, fine. That's mind and what the capability of mind is. It can do math. It can do engineering. It can do tremendous things, okay? But what happens, remember I said, when consciousness drops in, it's lost. It doesn't know who it is, and it's just disoriented. So what it does is it takes these things that you stored inside your mind, the experiences from your past, anything you experienced that you held on to, like blankie was important to you, doll was important to you, mommy, etc., you held on to it. And then it used its intellectual prowess, the same intellect that Einstein used to come up with E equals MC squared, you used to build a you. Where? In your mind. That's what you built out of that thing that can build anything. You built a self-concept. You built a you. That's the ego. You built a you that was made out of your past experiences. All your past experiences? No. The ones you clung to or resisted. Why? Because those are the ones still in there. Which one of you built a you out of the white lines you pass on the road? Nobody. Unless you got fired because you dripped them. Now you're the one who got fired because of the white line. Every time you see a white line, you get upset. It became part of your self-concept. So anything can be if you held it inside. You can't build a self-concept out of something you didn't hold inside. How many trees you're driven by? How many cars you're driven by? How many people you walk by? You don't build your self-concept out of that. They just pass right through until they don't. That's what's going on in there. So now the consciousness resisted, held on to this stuff, and it's lost. So this is the bricks and mortar that it uses to build a concept of itself. I'm the one who's married to someone. I'm the one who had this child. I'm the one whose nose is too big. I'm the one who's this. I'm the one who's that. I'm the one who got laughed at because I didn't say my lines right in 5th grade. Anybody got that stuff in there? You held it in there, and now you built your concept of yourself in there. That's what's called the personal mind. Let's just get straight. It's all the same mind. It's all the same ocean. But you took stuff that you stored in there and built a you. That's what happens. That's the fall from the garden. You basically were a very high being, and you dropped in here, and you built this concept of yourself. And now you don't feel comfortable. That's why you built the concept of yourself, because you were lost and you were comfortable. Underneath your ego is Freakville. And you know it. There's a dark abyss in there, isn't there? And you don't want to go there. And so you do every single thing you can to sell your ego to other people, to be the person that people will accept. Even if you're a hell's angel and do terrible things, that's your self-concept. You want people to be scared to death of you. You feel much better if they're that way. So nobody's saying good or bad or right or wrong. You built a concept of yourself. Behind that is someplace you don't want to go. Behind that is the fear that made you build that. Do you cling to your self-concept? Has anybody ever heard the word defensive? Has anybody ever been defensive? Well, you're defensive about every single thing that could ever possibly happen. Then the first thing you do is jump to be defensive. What's he saying? Why did you say that? I didn't do that. It's sort of like you have to defend this thing, because otherwise you know what happens. Ever been in a relationship that fell apart, but you were very committed to it and you didn't know it was going to fall apart, and you kind of built your whole life around that relationship, and this is my husband or wife and this kid and this and that, and that's who I am. That's a serious self-concept, right? This is who I'm married to. One person, you pick one person, it's very important, and then they leave or they die or something happens and your whole world falls apart. People don't know how to handle that. That's why. Because they're behind that is not so nice. It's why they built that, and now it doesn't work. They don't have this person. They don't have that relationship. They don't have that thing to cling to. They define themselves as that. That's the personal mind. That's what's meant by the personal mind. That thing. Freud talked about id, ego, and superego. They're all part of the personal mind. That essence. All of psychology is studying the personal mind. That's what they're studying, the personal mind. That's a very small part of mind. Right? If all of a sudden you're looking at an ocean and some stuff forms, there are little wavelets and things, there's a whole rest of the ocean. Your mind is completely expansive. Your mind is not limited to think about you. That's ridiculous. That's just what you're staring at when you get caught in your personal mind. That's what everybody's life's about. Staring at this personal mind that they built based on their past and knowing what it is that needs to happen outside so that it fits their personal mind. It's what I wanted to happen. This makes me feel better. If I had a bad experience, I want to blog about it on the web with other people who have the same kind of experience so I can feel camaraderie. It makes me feel better about it. It's just all about the personal mind. I want a house, I want a husband, I want a wife, I want 3 kids, and I want a certain amount of finances. That's what we do with our personal mind. You do it. You have expectations and concepts and views and hopes and dreams and beliefs. They're all mind. Every single word I just said is mind, isn't it? It's not reality. So basically, you're caught in the personal mind. But there is the impersonal mind, the whole rest of mind. Gyana Yoga is about that part of mind, okay? That sits there and says things like, okay, the Bible says, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. You've all heard that. Well, nothing that's going on in the personal mind is the truth. It's all built out of the garbage you stored in there from the past. It's already over, has nothing to do with anything, but you're caught in it. So what is Gyana Yoga? Gyana Yoga says little funny thing, because I always teach it this way anyways. There's giving a label, Gyana Yoga. It sits there and says, okay, it's hot out. The personal mind doesn't like that. Maybe I should move somewhere where it's cooler, but I don't want snow. It's just sitting there going crazy, doesn't it? All right? So you sit there and say, why is it hot? I've been through this with you. Because I'm on a little planet that's so tiny it's ridiculous, spinning around a star. And the star is really, really hot. Okay, how hot? So hot that at 93 million miles away, I'm complaining. And the picture I pulled up the other day, it's an actual photograph, not of our star, but of a star, with a planet transiting the star. And the proportion of the size of the star and our planet is about the same. And it is like this giant ball of fire with a black dot in the upper corner transiting. And that's your Earth. That's how stupid this thing is. If you use your intellectual mind, your abstract mind, your impersonal mind, it liberates you from the personal mind. By definition. Why? Because during the time you're contemplating that, you're not contemplating yourself. And by the way, if you think about that, if you actually dare to, I told you, 1.3 million Earths fit inside the sun. Look at me. And if your mind says, why do I care? That's ridiculous. You care because it's the truth, right? What I want to know is, why do you care what happened in your past? It's already over. This is reality. The impersonal mind cares about reality. And it liberates it from this stupid little thing. I have a scratch on my car. Somebody didn't say something nice to me. I don't know if he likes me or not. Just all like, look what you've done with your mind. That's capable of doing anything. So if you can get your consciousness to focus on the impersonal mind, you can do that with stars. And I told you, if anything ever started to bother my mind, if Mickey just did one thing, I just look at that picture of a star with a planet transiting it, make believe I'm sitting on that stupid little dot, and it looks so stupid that he would worry about anything or think about anything, because it doesn't make any difference. And then he thinks, wait, that's one star. There's 300 billion in your galaxy, and there's 2 trillion galaxies. What are you worried about? Well, I have a little zit on my face. That's Gyana Yoga. It's not just reading scriptures or doing stuff like that. It is elevating the level of your consciousness to focus on, it's okay to use mind, to focus on the impersonal mind that liberates you from what? From staring at yourself. During those moments, you're not staring at yourself. So you should do this because it's the truth. And what you're staring at is not the truth. It's dead. It's a ghost of the past. That's what you're staring at. All that garbage in there. And now you want to create a world that fits you, don't you? You want people to treat you a certain way. You want to have certain things. You want to own certain things. You want certain things to happen, other things not to happen. All because of this garbage you're storing inside. If you focus your consciousness onto the impersonal mind, you don't have that going on. It's like somehow preferences, these stupid preferences fall off. And you just start feeling appreciation for the fact that this planet's not a bad place to live. But there's all the garbage going on. Yeah, but at least there's something going on. There's just nothing going on anywhere else. Would you rather be on Mars? Dirt? Seriously, how long are you going to last on Mars? It's the most boring thing that could ever be. All of a sudden you'd be happy there's all these issues going on down here. And not a single moment of your life, you don't have colors, sounds, shapes, things to do, challenges. And so you start by expanding your level of consciousness, your frame of reference, into the impersonal mind and into these, like everyone's, your scientists are your priests. Why? By Galileo's day, they didn't think about 1.3 million Earths fit inside the sun. They said the sun orbits the Earth. They said the whole thing orbits the Earth. Well, they were quite wrong, weren't they? All right? Well, guess what? The whole thing doesn't orbit you. But you think it does. And I'm not trying to embarrass you. Do you understand that? You are the center of your universe, and you think you're supposed to be. Things should be the way I want them to be. If they're the way you want them to be, you say it's good. If they're not the way you want them to be, you say they're wrong. Things that happen that are not the way you want them to be are wrong, aren't they? If you say that was wrong, you shouldn't have said that to me. It's amazing what you have done with your personal mind. You literally think that the earth and everything on it and all people are there for you. And they're supposed to be the way you want them to be. Even read the newspaper. Everything that's going on all over the world, you judge it. What's right, what's wrong, what you agree with, what you disagree with. This shouldn't happen, that should happen. You're God. You're your God of your own universe. Everything orbits around me. Well, guess what? It doesn't. And by going to the impersonal mind, the abstract mind, and bothering to contemplate truth instead of the garbage that you're contemplating now, which is you. It's I hate to say it, I want to insult you. It's meaningless stuff. It's dead. It already happened. How dare you build a house out of stuff that's not there and then complain that nothing fits? The world will behave itself. Nobody will be the way I want them to be. Of course they won't be the way you want them to be. You made the stupid thing up completely. So you start using your mind for deeper things, for deeper thoughts, for broader thoughts. I am a soul sitting on a planet spinning around the middle of nowhere. That's your experience too. You have that experience. But you use your intellectual mind to do that. It's a very great thing, Gyana Yoga. Like some people think Gyana Yoga is just studying the scriptures. No, it is not. It's getting your consciousness off of your personal mind. How? By giving the intellectual mind the right to have some space. Right? How dare you sit there and say, well, what do I care that there's 300 billion stars in the galaxy? You know how you care? Because there are. And that makes what you're doing so stupid, it's ridiculous. Do you understand that? I don't mean to insult you, but isn't it silly if there's 300 billion stars and you're a tiny little piece of dirt orbiting one of them, and you think everything that's happening to you is the most important thing that could ever happen? Then it has to be the way you want it to be? No wonder you have problems. Spirituality is about getting your consciousness off of the personal mind. Christ called it dying to be reborn. Christians, the very deep Christians, call it dying of self. You're just literally letting go of the concept that you have to stare at yourself and that everything has to be the way you want it to be and so on. And one way to do that, like I said, is to just look at reality. Now, the other level of reality, scientists have now gone down far enough to say there's no form, the stuff you're looking at is not even here, and it's not made of atoms, it's not made of electrons or protons, it's not anything you thought, it's literally not even there. There's just a field of energy that has wavelets in it, and out of those wavelets seem to be these forces of magnetism, of force, of power. They're not really there. They're just part of, energy. The ocean has wavelets, and those waves have certain power. They crest, they break, all kinds of things happen. So the quantum field of energy has wavelets, and in the midst of its wavelets, there seems to be these particles. True quantum physicists use the word particles with quotes. They're not really there. They're just things that emanate out of these wavelets. Okay? That's what's literally under there. Now, why would you want to think about that? Are you kidding me? You're worried about these little wavelets? If you look at the reality of what's going on, there is nothing to worry about. There is nothing to get uptight about. Not on the physical plane, because there is no physical plane. Einstein said it. Quantum physics, I was thinking of it as something modern. I read the other day, the first person who talked about quantum physics was in 1923. And the whole concept of wavelets, that the electrons and protons that make up atoms, they come out of those wavelets, was discovered 2 years later, in 1925. Wow. But now every scientist on Earth, they all understand that that's what's going on. There's not anything really here. Einstein once said something like, it's all just a big illusion, albeit a very consistent one. If it popped up different every day, all the time, you wouldn't be all caught in it. But when you wake up in the morning, the bedroom looks the same. That means the quantum field is, and nothing you look at, nothing you deal with is anything but those wavelets. And then they give off these forces that pull themselves together into atoms. So therefore, if she's sitting there and if she looks like she did 5 minutes ago, it's doing the same thing. Otherwise, she's disappearing. And this is not theory. This is not a belief. But I read today, they now have somebody has built a test, a machine, a thing that is able to actually see the wavelets. They took I forget which element it was. They took a particular element and they brought it down to almost absolute zero, and they did this and that, and it looked like a particle, and then they took something away and they could see the wavelets. There's photographs, all these little wavelets. They're not even particles. And so it's a truth that's really there. That opens up so many phenomenal... You don't want to think about how do you get what you want. That's absurd. Why don't you think about this, okay? And then we can talk about it a little bit. It's always those wavelets, and they're manifesting, if you will, all the way up to this level. Well, if I pick up this glass of water, that's the wavelets. It's got to be coming up that way, and then move it over here. What did that? Because that means that down there, it had to move. Everybody listening? It's manifesting from down there in the field, and it just moved in the field, but I did it. Wow, that's kind of very interesting to think about. And what you understand, and they're not there, and it's fine. That's why it's very deep spirituality, is there's a vast difference between consciousness and form. Master used to sing a song, Spirit and Nature Dancing Together. Consciousness notices what it's looking at. Consciousness acts with will and causes things to happen. Form comes out of this field. And so what is the relationship? That's the highest, deepest spiritual question that can ever be asked. So like Gyana Yoga, what is the relationship between consciousness and that quantum field? And the yogis, thousands of years ago, with no machinery and no giant burn colliders and everything, they knew it. They figured it. Why? Someday, maybe, they will find out what the yogis have known for thousands and thousands of years. That quantum field, That's what they don't know what the field is. No one claims they know what the field is. They know it's there, and they know it can be still or it can have these wavelets, and then everything manifests out of it. What's it made out of? Well, the yogis say it's consciousness. There's the essence of where the whole thing is coming from is consciousness. And it's the same consciousness that is looking at it as the consciousness that's creating it. And that's where the masters went. And that's where the deep meditators merged. It's called non-duality. It's just one field of consciousness. Just like when you go to sleep, your consciousness creates all your dreams. There it is. And you go in and play. You're in there walking around, and you're conscious of it. You wake up, I had this dream, right? So it's made out of consciousness, and consciousness is experiencing it. That's the reality, and that's the ultimate of, we're talking about Gyana Yoga. That's fascinating, isn't it? And the fact that beings actually went there and let go of staring at themselves, so they fell back into the source of consciousness. And when they did so, go read Yogananda talks about by experiencing cosmic consciousness. The first time he dropped back behind himself, he said, my whole body was all the galaxies, period. I was no longer this body. I was expanding at the speed of light on all edges in every single direction. And all that was my body. My consciousness just went boom. It's like a drop of water fell into the ocean. It became the ocean. That water is no longer a drop anymore. It's the ocean. Think about that. You can't find it again. You can't define it again. It had separated itself, but the moment it dropped into the ocean, it is the ocean. Well, when your consciousness drops into the source of consciousness, that's who you are. My father and I are one. All the teachings merge at that point. It's just so beautiful. And you should use your intellectual mind, your abstract mind, to contemplate these things instead of thinking about this stupid little thing called yourself. In relationship, imagine Yogananda goes there and merges with the whole universe. He's one with the universe. Then he comes back. You know, if you read autobiography, you know how when he came back. When he came back, his guru, who blessed him by letting him have that experience, the moment he came back, before he could talk about it, the first time he ever merged with the whole universe, Yugasura took a broom, shoved it in his hand, and said, sweep the floor. Learn to live at both levels. You can't just go disappear out there. You have dharma, you have work to do here. Who does? God. God created the universe, so he could create the universe and play in it and do everything. And so now you get down to real understanding of reality. You are a very great thing. I've told you that 1,000,000 times. I don't care whether you're depressed. I don't care whether you think you did things wrong. It's because you're staring at yourself. It's like an ingrown toenail. If you stare at yourself enough, it's going to be trouble. Have you ever noticed if you think enough, you find out things that are wrong? That's just what the mind's going to do. It just does that because it's stored all this bad stuff and it's afraid it's going to happen again. And then you start thinking about how do I avoid it, and you're just lost in yourself. Whereas you're this great being. You are the universe. As the Bible says, man was created in the image of God. Yes, you are. Your source of consciousness is consciousness. That which created the universe, that which always was and will always be, that which has no beginning and no end, is you. It's not something you worship. You honor and respect the depth of your being. But if you're going to take that consciousness and take one ray of it and stare at yourself and get all involved in what do I want and what do I not want and what do I like and what do I not like and why did that happen? It happened to me. Oh my God, and I was so depressed. And then just get lost in that garbage and then go out there and try to manipulate the world so you feel better. No. My God, you're a great being. It's the silliest thing in the whole world to live like that. All right? Baba Muktananda used to, at this point, he'd hit his mic. I spoke very little English, but he spoke this in English. Don't be a beggar. You're not a beggar. You're God. You're the creator of the whole universe, and you're begging for a relationship. You're begging to look a little bit better. You're begging not to get old. You're begging to have some money so you can go travel somewhere. You're everything. You're belittling yourself down to this tiny little beggar that can't ever be really happy. You're only happy if you get what you want, and you never get what you want. And if you do, it doesn't stay. And if it stays, you don't want it. Come on, tell me the truth. Tell me you've never in your whole life gotten what you thought you wanted, right? How long did that last? Before you wanted something else. Or before it didn't look so interesting anymore. Just wake up. You're a great being, and that's what Gyana Yoga's about. It's about contemplating these deep truths. They're not philosophy, they're not religion. Let's take reality. I love the fact that physics, all of science is telling you these things. I just told you. It's telling you. But what's hilarious is they go there, they study this, and they go home and fight with their wife. Hello, how ridiculous is that? Or I want to be the one who publishes so I can be famous and make the money. Famous about what? You don't even exist, right? It's like the consciousness, that lost consciousness, builds this thing, and then you suffer. That's what Buddha. What did Buddha say? What did Buddha say? All of life is suffering. The Buddha was fully enlightened, merged completely into the oneness. First noble truth of Buddha. All of life is suffering. You look at that and say, that's pretty negative, man. I mean, for a positive person that's supposed to be enlightened, what kind of negative statement is that? It's the truth. If you're down here trying to find yourself, improve yourself, and get for yourself, you're suffering. And so is everybody, rich, poor, male, female, old, young. Take a look around. And then he asked the greatest question that could ever be. Why? It's a nice planet. You're only going to be here for a few years. You can handle it. Why are you suffering? And he said the cause, not the cause of some suffering. I think it's so neat. Pay attention. He didn't say the cause of suffering is old age. He didn't say sickness. He didn't say greed and avarice, and evil people. He didn't say anything like that. He said the cause of suffering is preference. The cause of suffering is desire. The cause of all suffering is because you want things to be a certain way. That's what a desire is. As long as you desire not to get old, you will suffer as you get old. As long as you desire more money than you have, you will suffer. As long as you desire that your car be this and not that, every single desire you have is a cause of suffering. Because now you have to make the world be that way, and so you suffer, you struggle, and it doesn't ever do anything. So Buddha was right. That's very, very deep stuff. The cause of all suffering is preference. You got preferences, don't you? You got serious preferences all the time about the weather, the driver in front of you, about your weight, down to about 0.1 pounds. And the funnier scales down to 0.1, all right? Okay, that's very good. You have preferences, don't you? Think about how many preferences you have, about how things have to be the way you want them to be for you to be okay. You're suffering. If you don't like the weather, you suffer. If you like the rain, you suffer. If you like the rain, you suffer, right? It's until you reach the point where you say, I don't care about this little me that built all these preferences. I care about reality. Then I'm fine. I'm fine. Rain is beautiful. Non-rain is beautiful. Wind is beautiful. My hair getting all messed up in the wind is I just had it done. Oh, it's so much fun. It's so beautiful. I have no preferences. And then Buddha said, the cause of suffering is preferences. How stop suffering and preferences. And then he gave you the Eightfold Path of how to go about doing that. How to do the work on yourself. It's really very deep. So you catch on that you're a very great being, but you're contemplating the part of you that you built that is going to suffer. It's not doing well. It's never going to do well. You can temporarily do what's called conditionally well. If things are the way you want them to be, you're okay. If things are not the way to be, you're not. If things are neither the way you want them to be nor not the way to be, you're bored. And so now you struggle to try and make things be the way you want them to be. The deep teachings, take your consciousness and focus it on something higher than yourself. There's so much. The physicists go to the quantum field, go to the planets spinning through space, go to the hundreds of billions of stars. It blows my mind to see that little planet circle one star, and there's hundreds of billions of them in your galaxy. Well, that must be very crowded. There's hundreds of billions of them in a galaxy. Do you know how far apart those stars are? Your nearest star is 4.2 light years away. That doesn't mean anything to anyone. Then your nearest star, there's billions of them, 4.2 light years away. What does that mean? I tell you, if you took a light beam and you held it above the planet Earth and you let it go for 1 second, pop, it just circumnavigated the globe 7.5 times. That fast enough for you? Go that speed. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every year for 4.2 years, and you'll get to the next star. That's the next star. There's hundreds of billions of them in your galaxy, and there's trillions of galaxies. What are you worried about? Look at me. It's crazy, isn't it? What we've done with our minds to cause such a mess for ourselves and everybody else. Isn't that beautiful? It's that far away. And then there's billions of them. Their closest galaxy is the Andromeda Galaxy. You know how far away it is? 2.5 million light years. Go at that speed for 2.5 million years, and you reach the next of 2 trillion galaxies. What are you doing with your mind? How in the world can you think so small? So Gyana Yoga is expand your frame of reference to include reality. I'm not asking much of you. I didn't ask you to renounce anything. I didn't tell you to live a certain way. I said, there's a thing out there called reality. And science has been very nice to show it to you. And we have these James Webb telescopes and the Hubble out there just studying all this stuff. And you have the right to pay attention to that and do it in relationship to your life. And it's going to look so stupid what we're doing. And now I have 1 minute left. Now the question becomes, if I do that, why would I get out of bed? Why would I have children? Why would I get married? Why would I go to work? Why would I do anything? That's what your mind wants to say. Because you think the only reason you do anything is you want something. That's why you do it. I need something. I want something. I want to avoid something. I'm busy. Leave me alone. And what happens if you let go of your personal self and you merge and you open and you feel the greatness of creation, you realize, yeah, it's all created out of the quantum field, all so big, and I'm here. And it's passing in front of me. How can I help? Because I don't need anything. So then you realize you have a job. Your consciousness has a part to play in this dance of the universe. But it's not to get what you want or attract to yourself what you want or anything like that. It's just to sit there and say, I'm wonderful, I'm fine. You're going to be in ecstasy if you let go of your junk. Let's get that straight. All right? How can I help? How can I serve the moments unfolding in front of me? Which moment? The moment. Well, it doesn't need me. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. If every single person brought their love and their beauty and their openness to the moments unfolding in front of you, you'd be beyond heaven. The earth, finally, peace would come. Right? But we can't, because we're fighting with each other to get what we want. All right, well, you got to taste of Gyana Yoga. I tried hard. Maybe you think it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with you. You just have to be willing to say, it is stupid to focus my entire consciousness for my entire life on me. When it's so much bigger than me, it can't even be talked about. I showed you how bigger it is than your planet. 1.3 million Earths inside the sun, which billions of suns, right? Then how small are you compared to the planet? What are you doing, spending your entire time focusing on yourself? And the answer is, I'm not okay in here. Well, the reason you're not okay in there is because you stored all this garbage inside of you. I've taught you that over and over again. That's the only reason you're not okay in there. Because you stored all this junk in there. And your mind's a mess. And so your path is to let go. I'm going to end with, that's why the great saints, the great enlightened beings, it's wonderful to see what they have to say. Ramakrishna was fully enlightened. He once made a statement. Very hard to understand, but now maybe you can. The purified mind is no different than the self. What does that mean? It means if your mind is not full of these fake forms that you built inside, it is really the same essence of consciousness emanating the highest vibration of energy. Just one step below pure consciousness. So the mind and consciousness are merged, and ultimately the great masters, the mind falls back into consciousness where it came from, and it all merges into oneness. That's non-duality. All right, we've had a very deep talk. Work on these things. Jagged.